Right. Okay. Get on recording.
Okay, so everyone. Very good, Erev Shabbat. This is Parsha Vayera, which contains many fundamental subjects and ideas of the Torah. It contains within it the story of the Akedat Yitzchak. That Avraham Avinu brings his only child to the brink of extinction to fulfill the word of God. Now, we have a picture of Avraham Avinu that the Torah has given us before. The picture of Avraham Avinu is not necessarily of a wimp, of somebody that doesn't have a backbone. And he is someone that contradictions and problems are recognized. So, for instance, we find by his dome that he argues with God. God wants to destroy his dome. And he says, "Hashofet kol haaretz lo ya'aseh mishpat." Is that really right? Is that really true? Maybe there are some righteous people there. So we find that Avraham Avinu prays for his dome against, so to speak, the will of God that has informed him that he's going to destroy his dome. And when Avraham Avinu is childless, and the Lord has promised him a number of times that he will have progeny, Avraham Avinu says to all the promises, "Umatitenli, God, what can you give me? Vanochi holech hariri, I go forth childless. Kuvan meshek beisi Eliezer. The only one that I have left is Eliezer, and he's not me. He's not my flesh and blood." So he argues with God. God promises Avraham Avinu Eretz Yisrael. L'chol zaracho etenis kol haaretz hazos. Avraham Avinu says, "B'meida ki harishena." How do I know? Words are cheap. United Nations resolution isn't going to be enough. How do I know it's going to happen? So in all of these instances, we find that Avraham Avinu, so to speak, stands up to heaven. You're wrong on his dome. I don't know if your promises can be relied upon. In general, regarding Eretz Yisrael, regarding my future, that I'll have children. Avraham Avinu is, to put it mildly, a very tough character here. We would think that, if the Lord appears and says he's going to do something, oh yeah, yes, Master. I have no doubt. And yet it says by Avraham Avinu, v'hemin b'Hashem, v'yachshaveh lo tzedakah. Avraham Avinu is the symbol of emunah, faith, belief. And the Lord counted it for his great merit. That Avraham Avinu is a person of faith. So here, when God tells him, go and take your son and go there, Samaria, and on one of the mountains there, you'll build an altar and bring him up on the altar. So here, if anywhere, Avraham Avinu should speak up. And we see Rashi quotes the Medrash that in his heart of hearts, Avraham Avinu does speak up. He says, Esmo amartali ki b'Yitzchak yikor lecha zora. Yesterday you told me that through Yitzchak I will have generations, the Jewish people will be built. And now you're telling me bring him up as a sacrifice on one of the mountains. So the Medrash says that's what Abraham Avinu thinks. But he doesn't say it. Now, the Rebbeinu Shalom Hayadeh Machshavos V'Leiv. The Rebbeinu Shalom was aware not only of what we say, but of what we think. So this also, so to speak, constitutes a protest to heaven. But he doesn't say it, as he did by his dome, as he did by Eretz Yisrael, as he did it by the Bris Bein Absorim. He doesn't say anything. Avraham Avinu is silent. And he does what he is told. And he takes his son and he binds him. And he puts him in a situation where he is about to be slaughtered. So how are we to understand this, if at all? Not only that, the whole concept of sacrificing a human being as an offering to God is completely foreign to our values and to our worldview. And in fact, Avraham Avinu represents the singular quality of an individual. The Navi says, Ki echad krosiv. There was one. It's enough there's one. The power of the individual, of human life itself. So how does, so to speak, does God contradict himself? And this is a basic issue of faith, an issue that the Jewish people have had to wrestle with in our faith for thousands of years. And we wrestle with it today. Why do we have to fight Hamas? What did we do to deserve this? So, this deep philosophical problem. The great commentators and scholars of Israel have attempted to deal with over the ages. And basically, they all come to the same conclusion that the Navi Yeshayahu did. Hilo machshavosai, machshavosechem, below darchechem, drochoi, Omar Hashem. The Lord is inscrutable. You'll never figure it out. Beyond us. But in order to say that, a person has to be of supreme faith. Because there's a faith that's built upon logic. There's a faith that's built upon law. There's a faith that's built upon history. That's a faith that we can understand. And to put it loosely, that's a faith that we can achieve. I have perfect faith that Israel will prevail here because I have 85 years, 75 years of history where we've been in very, very tight corners all the time and we have prevailed. So the same way that we prevailed 50 years ago, 30 years ago, we'll prevail today too. I don't know how, but we will. So that's, I don't want to minimize that, but that's like an easy faith. It's a faith based upon experience. You look at the Jewish world generally and say, you know, we've survived for thousands of years in the face of such enmity. In 1932, Menachem Begin organized a Jewish defense force in the University of Warsaw to protect the Jewish students from the anti-Semitism of the Polish students attending the university. Okay, so, you know, so that's what we should do at Harvard. We have experience. But that's not the faith that the Torah requires. The faith that the Torah requires is of such an overriding quality that no experience can back it up. No that is the absolute faith. That's what it means. Abraham believed. So he has all the questions. Yes, yesterday you told me, today you say, kill him. So that faith is that when you told me, you knew already that you would tell me. You knew about the Akedah already because nothing is hidden from God, so to speak. And yet that's what you said. So now I have to trust you. Even if it doesn't make any sense to me. Even if I have no avenue on which to justify my faith. There's a story that's told I heard it, but I'm not an eyewitness to it. But all stories are worthy of repetition. They have a moral message involved. Anyway, in the Second World War, one of the great Hasidic rebbes of Central Europe, the Kloisenberger Rebbe, he was the nephew of the Satmarov. Kloisenberger Rebbe was taken to Auschwitz with his family. All 11 of his children were destroyed. His wife was killed. He survived the war miraculously. And he pledged himself in the middle of the hell that if somehow he got out, he would do things to help Jews, which sounds so simplistic, but which is such a noble idea. So later on, first he came to America. He was a Rebbe in Union City, New Jersey. Eventually moved there to Israel, moved to Netanya. He built a whole shchuna there, a whole neighborhood, Kiryat Sanz. And he made the Lilaniado Hospital. And there's countless acts of wisdom and goodness that are attributed to him. But the story is told that after the war ended in May, so the next Yom Tov was going to be Shavuot. And the Rebbe went around the camps to gather children, to help people as he could, even though he himself was in an unspeakable situation of tragedy. And Shavuos is coming. So he's going to make a minyan for Kabbalah Torah for the Yom Tov Shavuos. He had a former chassid of his who also survived the war. And when he said he's making a minyan for Shavuos, the chassid who had tragically lost everything and lost his faith as well, said to him, Rebbe, I want to ask you something. You're going to make a minyan, and you're going to say, An Yom Tov, Ato b'chartonu mikol ha'amim, Ahavto sonu, Atzisa bonu, Ruhamtonu mikol ha'oshonos, Kirashtonu b'mitzvosecha, V'shimcha ha'gadol v'ha'kodosh aleinu nikrasa. How can you say that after what we have seen, after what has happened to us? You're going to say, Ata b'chartonu mikol ha'amim. You have chosen us from all the nations. You have exalted us from all cultures. You brought us closer to you. You sanctified us. Rebbe, you know it's all nonsense. How can you say that? A good question. Asked by many. Even if it's not asked, it lurks in the backs of the minds of many. So the Rebbe answered him. The Rebbe said, yes, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it because we are from the Nirtzochim, but not from the Rotzchim. We are from those who may be slaughtered, but we are not slaughterers. And that's the chosenness. That's what it means. Out of all of the people of the world, we are special. So I think it's important for us to keep that in mind. That's Avraham Avinu here. Avraham Avinu has the supreme question. Yesterday you told me Yitzchak, Yikar L'Chazora. Now nothing. Yesterday you told me Eretz Yisrael is going to be a paradise. Look at it. Yesterday you told me Or Lagoyim Nisaticha. You're to lie down to the nations. Look at it. Look what the nations have to say about us. So that requires a supreme faith. That requires an emunah that transcends experience, history, logic. It's a rarefied emunah. And Avraham Avinu realized it. And he realized that the God that told him, Ki b'Yitzchak yikor l'chazora, is the same God that told him, Ba'alei u'le'olah. And that somehow, by God, there are no contradictions. By God, there's nothing that's less than perfection. That's a great understanding of faith. I saw this played out in a small vignette. You know, when you get to be my age, you remember the small things in life. The big things have disappeared already. Last year, I gave up already on winning the Nobel Prize for Literature. So I remember small things. So my father-in-law, of blessed memory, Rabbi Lazer Levine in Detroit, so he was the head of the Bet Din that granted the Gittin divorces when the situation arose. And at that time, the conservative rabbinate in Detroit did not issue divorces on their own. And they always sent any divorce to Rabbi Levine that he should handle it. So it was done al pi halacha, fine. So one day I'm in the house, and two women come, and one of the women is there to pick up her certificate that says that she was divorced. The two women come into the house, so they are, they're not, you know, they're obviously not observant, nor by their dress are they really understanding of what you're supposed to look like, especially if you're coming to the house of the rabbi, but it doesn't make any difference. And one woman, they both come in, and my father-in-law answers the door, and father-in-law had a very sweet smile. He greeted everyone. And one of the women, she stuck out her hand to shake hands with him. And he took her hand. The other woman said to her in a loud whisper, "You don't do that. Rabbis don't shake hands with women." So the woman was taken aback. She was ashamed. So she said to my father-in-law, "Please forgive me. I didn't realize." And my father-in-law said, "There's no problem whatsoever." And he told her one sentence that I remember till today. He said, "The same God that said, 'Don't shake hands with a woman,' also said, 'Don't shame a human being.'" The ability to have the faith that it's the same God. Because that's what paganism is. Paganism was the inability to adjust to all the contradictions. So if you couldn't adjust to the contradiction, and if you this kind of God and that kind of God and this kind, that's what it was. So there are good gods and there are other gods. But Avraham Avinu brought into the world the concept of one God who rises above all of our contradictions, above all of the logic, above all of our experience, and who in his realm, so to speak, is perfection itself. That's faith. That's Ata B'chartonu Mikol Ha'amim. That's a level that we have to strive to achieve always, because we're the children of Avraham Avinu. And we are constantly put to the test. So in the peace treaty, the ceasefire agreements of 1949 and 1950 were signed after the end of the War of Independence. So there were a lot of people who, in their naivete, thought that, okay, now that's over. We're going to have the Rose Garden of the Middle East. Ben Gurion, to his credit, said, "We dare not think that way. They'll come after us again." But that was not the popular thing to say. It was not the logical thing to say. And by saying it, so to speak, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Oh, you don't want to make peace with them? But in its own way, this is a declaration of faith. We know what's going to happen. Can't figure it out. Why? You're going to make commissions to fix the blame for all the debacles, but that doesn't answer the basic question of why. Behamin b'Hashem. Avraham Avinu believed in God. He had that overriding faith that resists all contradictions and experiences. It defies explanations. So we are in such a moment of faith as well. Doesn't come often in life, the opportunity. But somehow we have that opportunity. And by experiencing it and rising to the occasion, we justify saying, "Ato bechartonu mikol ha'amim, ahavto sonu, atzisa bonu, ulamtonu mikol ha'ushonos, kidashtonu b'mitzvosecha, v'shimcha hagadol v'hakodosh, aleinu korosa." Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Thank you very much.